Hello, Paul.
From Wave.
Oh, Jerry did join us.
Good. You guys, this is, I would like to introduce Mr. Paul Canaan and Jerry Mitchell. Welcome to our Hairspray Zoom rehearsal.
Zoom rehearsal?
Yes, we're doing it. 21st century.
Geez, how are you Zoom rehearsing?
The newest thing.
We do blocking via Zoom, and it's very interesting how we do it, but it was an idea that we had, and Mr. Taylor, the drama teacher, got it all together for us. Got it all the way together.
Yeah.
Good thing you can share the original production with everyone.
This is true.
It's me behind Jerry Mitchell in his Fire Island house.
Oh, there it is. Boom. I love Fire Island. I haven't been in a while.
Good time.
Oh,
There it is. I love that picture.
Wait,
Come
where
on,
are
Kinky
you, Paul?
Boots.
Can you
To the right. The blonde sitting on the ground.
Oh, there you are.
What was that for? Vogue?
Paul auditioning for Velma Von Tussle.
There I was. There I was.
That was Vogue, yes.
So was your production
Vanity Fair.
postponed? Oh, it was for Vanity Fair. That's right.
We're on delay right now.
Yeah, we're just kind of delayed, postponed. Yeah, trying to find new dates when we go back.
What school is this?
Kentwood High School in Covington, Washington. We're about how many miles out of Seattle?
32 miles exactly out of Seattle, because I drive it every day.
Yeah.
Seattle's great. We love Seattle.
Yeah.
We were, I was mentioning I was asking Paul if you guys still did Take It From the Top. And I was like, that would be an awesome thing to bring to Seattle. So we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, you know, Hairspray started at the Fifth Avenue in Seattle.
It sure did.
Sure did. We had a wonderful, wonderful time at the Fifth Avenue creating the show.
I love the shows that the Fifth Avenue puts on. Actually, Chad, you've done some work with the Fifth, originating shows.
Worked on a show. Well, didn't originate there, but Marie Dancing Still. Yeah. What was that process like, starting Hairspray at the Fifth?
Well, we had done 4 workshops in New York City. By the time we went there, we were just ready to mount the show. But Seattle was a great place to do it. And Seattle also, the town just is, there's a lot of theater in Seattle. I mean, you've got those 2 beautiful theaters. You've got, is it the Paramount?
The Paramount.
Yeah, beautiful theater where a lot of tours go through. And then you have some like smaller, beautiful theaters in Seattle that do incredible productions.
Oh yeah. Fifth Avenue is one of my favorites. Paramount's great. They do a lot of shows, in just random small black box theaters throughout the city that are fantastic that people don't really know about. But they do a lot of amazing and impactful shows out of those theaters.
Now, are all the kids on this call who are in the show?
Yes, we have Kelly O'Brien, who plays our Tracy Turnblad. We have an Asian seaweed, Mr. Kevin Doan.
All right.
We have Martine Rosales, who plays our Edna, and her husband is played by Declan Brennan. We'll have questions from those 2 later. And then is Velma on? Tess plays Velma. And then Delaney Goodwin is our, Amber, thank you. Where's Link? Is Link on? Is Landon on? Landon's on it. Landon plays our Link. He's amazing. We do some acrobatics. He does some acrobatics. We don't do it. He does.
I see Landon McCann.
That's him.
Landon. That's him. He's there.
Hi, Landon.
How are you seeing everybody?
I'm just scrolling through the pictures.
Oh, whoa.
There we go.
Oh, there's everybody.
Not everybody's name is coming up. Some people's are, but not everybody's. Now they are.
There they are.
No, they went away. Now I see. I have to hit it twice.
So you just mute all the cast, and then you unmute them if they have a question or something?
Yeah. Does You guys can message me if you have a question. I have some questions that I emailed over to you guys. If you want to read some of those, and I'll unmute those people. Just
You
read off there.
emailed them to me?
I emailed them to Paul. I didn't.
Well, you just ask them. If you have
Yeah,
questions, just ask away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed pretty.
All right, here we go. We're gonna start with Miss Kelly O'Brien.
That's my boyfriend's mom's name. That's hilarious.
Kelly O'Brien has a yellow shirt on and black hair. I see you, Kelly O'Brien.
You're unmuted, Kelly.
Okay. My first question, what has been your favorite project to work on so far, both of you?
Well, Hairspray was certainly one of my favorite shows, no question about it. As a choreographer, it's probably my favorite show. As a director choreographer, I'd have to say Kinky Boots.
Oh yeah.
I'd probably say Kinky was the same. I mean, the two main shows that I was in the original cast of Legally Blonde and Kinky Boots was Gary Mitchell's first directing and choreographing. So those were my two favorite. Kinky, there was something very uniquely special about that cast and how the show came together and how Jerry kind of like led us to.
And the messages just resonated all around the world in such a huge way and still continues to. So, yeah, very special.
Okay, awesome.
Paul, you just got done, sorry, Kelly. Paul, you just got done helping with, or I saw a post that you had, the first high school just did Kinky Boots. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
They did a pilot program to see, the MTI picked like a school that they know. And it was so fascinating. The show was so the message. The guy that played Don, he was on the football team. He'd never done theater before. And he was like, this isn't my world at all. This was crazy. Getting all those kids in drag was tricky. I wish they would have come to us a little bit for some of the tested.
Wow.
But there's no message for theater. There's no sex talk. It's all just straightforward. If you have the cast that is willing to do flips and back in heels like I did for those years.
Awesome.
But yeah, they have about 100 schools. They have like a soft launch out there to see how it goes. But we filmed all the choreography for original production. It's all ready to go.
It's good to know.
Treadmills and all, Jerry Mitchell and stuff.
Carly is on. Actually, Carly is one of the. She's a student at Kentwood, but she's designing the set for Hairspray for this production. And Carly, you're unmuted. You can ask your questions.
Hello, first of all, and my question actually is, what was your educational and / or work experience like after high school, both of you?
Paul, you want to go first?
Sure. I did like show choir and musicals in high school, and then I went to college where Jonathan went. I went to BYU, and I grew up Mormon. I went on a mission for 2 years to Mexico, which was a random thing to have been a Mormon missionary and then a drag queen many years later. But I trained in dance at BYU, and we had voice classes, we had all that. But this probably sounds cheesy, but I think my real education came when I actually moved to New York City and took class at Broadway Dance Center and Steps, and I got a vocal coach, and I just started seeing shows. And once I started working, I just took that. You never stop training. I learned something every single day about this business and this craft. But my education, I guess, was at Brigham Young University.
That was a very interesting school though too. There are a lot of very talented Mormon kids.
Oh yeah,
those halls. So
I
was shocked coming from
a lot of kids from BU. Brigham Young, is it BY?
Yeah,
Yeah, I auditioned a lot of kids from Utah. I went to Webster University, which was Webster College when I went there, but it's in St. Louis, Missouri, and they have a conservatory program for all of the arts, for not just for singing, dancing, and acting, but also for design, for stage management, for all areas of the production. And I was one of the first students enrolled in their musical theater program. So I was on campus for 2 years, and then I got a Broadway show, and they gave me credit to be in the Broadway show my junior year. And then I got a film, and then I never went back to school because I just got another Broadway show and another film, and I stayed working. And then I did get an honorary degree from the university, and I'm very close to the university. I go there and I teach often to the conservatory kids. The musical theater program is run by a man named Lara Teeter, who is actually the star of On Your Toes, and I was in the chorus when I was 23, and Carva was the star of the musical on Broadway. So I know the professor who runs the program. So small world.
Very cool. Very cool. Anything else?
What else?
Declan, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure.
Don't be shy, Declan. Don't be shy.
Sorry, that's kind of what I do. So this is a question for, so when you're working on choreography, how much are you working with the songwriters during that process? Like, is it common for songs to be made with certain dance scenes in mind, or is it often just the other way around, where it's?
Well, usually when I'm working on a new musical, it just depends on when I come into the process. On Kinky Boots and on Legally Blonde, I was picked before the team was picked who was going to write the show. So I had a lot of influence and a lot of suggestions for Larry and Nell writing Legally Blonde, and also for Harvey and Cindy writing Kinky Boots. I would say to Cindy, I want a song that says, yeah, everybody says, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then she wrote, everybody says, yeah. And then I choreographed it, you know. So basically, if you're in the beginning process where you're creating with the writers, the director can be very influential and become a part of that team. Sometimes you're handed a musical, like by the time I got to Hairspray, the show was completely written, but none of it had been choreographed yet. And Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman were old friends of mine. So they made a CD for me of all of the music. And I would listen to the music over and over and over. And then I would come to them with choreographic ideas. And then Mark and I would sit down at the piano and he'd start to play as I danced around. And that's how he created the dances.
Oh, okay. Thanks a ton.
Luke, go for it. Luke is one of our council members. He's awesome. Great dancer.
What's your favorite show that you've seen but haven't worked on?
My favorite show that I have seen and have, well, there's too many of them to mention. A few of them, Hamilton. I really loved The Wiz when I first saw it, and I never worked on it. Oh God, I mean, most musicals, I kind of take a musical like this. I go to see a musical and I try to walk out of the musical having liked something. If it wasn't the music, maybe I liked the story. If it wasn't the story, maybe it was the music. If it wasn't either of those things, maybe it was the choreography, maybe the lights, maybe the direction, maybe the scenery. I mean, I am in a business where it's my job to pay attention to what everyone contributes to the work. So I tried at a very young age to get over being jealous, because that's a wasted emotion, right? Jealous in a sense that, God, I hate them because I want to do that. No, God, I hate them because I want to join them and do that. That was fantastic. I want to be a part of that. I want to meet them. I want to become friends with them so I can be in their next show, you know? So I try to look at a show and think there's got to be something great about it, something to like. So most shows I go in, I find something to like in them. I liked Waitress. I loved some of the songs. I thought they were brilliant. What else recently was on Broadway? Come From Away. I thought Kelly and the director and choreographer, the way they moved that story and kept it interesting when the score was so similar throughout. I thought they did a spectacular job of telling that story and keeping my interest. Yeah.
Fun. Mine actually was, I mean, one of the many. When I was a kid, I grew up outside of San Francisco, and I remember my parents took me to see Crazy for You, and I freaked out at all that dancing. I was like, I want to do what they are doing. How does that happen? And then we came to New York, and I like saw it like 3 times back to back. And I always wanted to be Bobby, just classic dancer, singer kid. But I was on tour. We actually came through Seattle with Annie Get Your Gun with Tom Wopat and Mary Lou Henner. And we got back from the tour and I was auditioning and stuff. And I saw Hairspray and Thoroughly Modern Millie in the same week. And I was like, those are amazing. I will be in both of those shows. I'm totally blown away. And I went to an audition with Jerry Mitchell and he was like, he had a drummer in the room and he had so much energy and he was like, full out, full out. I'm like, who is this guy? And I danced my ass off in that audition. And 4 months later, I also auditioned for Millie. I went into Millie. 4 months later, the casting director, Craig Burns of Hairspray, called me and was like, we have a spot for you in Hairspray, like a vacation swing thing. I was like, oh, I just went into Thoroughly Modern Millie, but I love Hairspray so much. And I had a lot of fun with original production when we filmed all of Hairspray as a show that I wasn't in, like learning all those amazing steps and seeing everyone that just knew him so well. And it's such a joyous, fun show.
Exactly. Hairspray was one of the shows that I wish that I did in high school, but we were doing My Fair Lady and Guys and Dolls and
oh yeah.
But oh well, now we're doing it now, and these kids are awesome. Mr. Martin Rosales, you dressed up for us today.
Yeah,
you look so dapper. I love it.
Are important. Brad and Angelo are also dressed up very fancy.
I see Brad and Angelo are also dressed up.
What part are you playing, Martine?
I'm playing Edna.
Oh, fabulous.
Thank you. So
he's awesome. He just doesn't know how awesome he is. He acts so shy on stage, Jerry.
No.
We can get him to come out of his shell when he's not performing, but when you get on stage, he gets super shy. So, do you have any advice for him?
Don't be shy. Shy. What's the point of shy? Who cares about shy?
Exactly. Ask your question, Martine. Go for it.
Okay. So my question was for either one of you. So it was how do you like get started on Broadway, and like what was your process from beginning to like now?
Well, my process was I was in college and I came to New York City for spring break, and I went to audition for my first audition ever, which was Brigadoon for Agnes DeMille, and I got the show, my first audition ever. So I went back to college. It was spring break, and I told them, and then they gave me credit to come to New York to be in the show. But before my sophomore year finished at school in St. Louis, the tour of A Chorus Line was going through town, and they had auditions for A Chorus Line, and I auditioned for that, and I got that also. So I went on tour with A Chorus Line all summer long, and then my junior year I started working, and then I just kept auditioning and kept learning. As a person who wanted to be a choreographer, I was trying to work with the great choreographers. So I started assisting a lot of them. And I worked as an assistant and associate to all of them for the next 17 years. And then I finally got to choreograph my first show. And then that led to direction. And I followed in the footsteps of all of the others who did it before me. Michael Bennett, Bob Fosse, Susan Stroman. You know, they all started as dancers, then they were choreographers, and then they were choreographer directors.
Paul?
I similar kind of fluke. I was going to school in Utah, and they Miss Saigon Broadway came to Salt Lake City and auditioned a bunch of people, and me and Will Swenson of all people went down and auditioned. And they're like, do you tumble? I'm like, yes, I do. Do you do this? Do you do this? I just did everything they threw at me. And 2 weeks later, they said, can you be on Broadway and Miss Saigon? I was like, confuse me? I was just at school in Utah. So I packed my car, drove home, flew to New York, and got in a cab and said, take me to the theater Miss Saigon is playing at, the Broadway theater. I didn't know New York that well. And I walked up into the box office and said, I have rehearsal for the play. They were like, what play? For this play? You want to go in the stage door where the actors go. Stupid idiot. So I was the baby of that company. And then just terrified. And that show of all shows, me, my little Mormon self, was like, I was very scared. But I auditioned for.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, could you tell them that you went to that audition without a headshot or resume?
Yeah, didn't have a headshot or resume. That just wasn't like, nowadays there's so much information available of how to do a resume and how the business works and what to say in auditions and stuff. I mean, that's what I try to teach in my workshops because I never had any of that knowledge. I had to like learn the hard way. So when I came to New York, my mom took me to the steps of our church because there was like the best lighting there and got her a good camera and took a picture of me with bleached blonde hair. And that was in the program on Broadway of Miss Saigon.
I remember that hair, Paul. You looked like a member of the Backstreet Boys.
It was because I was at Sundance. I'd done this weird Cinderella Sundance thing, and they wanted to like Annie Lennox my hair. I was like, okay, I'll do that. But just like Jerry, from there, once I was in, I just auditioned, and one thing led to the next, and I got to know people, and I did like Radio City and a few regional things, and then I did Millie, and Lacage was the first show Jerry and I did together.
I think for a lot of the young kids, are you all auditioning? I mean, do you all want to be on Broadway someday? Is that really what you guys want? Raise your hand. You're all muted. Raise your hand if you want to keep going in theater. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8, 9. A lot of you. So the advice really is that you have to keep getting yourself ready. You know, I don't believe in good luck or bad luck. I believe in being prepared and not being prepared. So you want to be prepared for that knock on the door, right? You want to be prepared when that audition comes, and you want to have the goods to go in and do the audition and succeed and get the part. And you're never in competition with the person next to you. You're only in competition with yourself. So you can only be as good as you can be. So concentrate on yourself, focus on you, and realize that you're an individual, and what you have to offer is unique, and it's only you. There's only one you. Focus on that, work on that, and when you're ready and the knock comes, you'll get the part, and away you go. That's how it works.
Snaps from Jerry Mitchell.
Yes. Our Steve lead, Mr. Kevin Doan, has a question for you guys.
All right, this is to Paul because Miss Saigon is like my favorite musical ever. What was your favorite number or most memorable part of working on that show?
Well, my track, they're called, like your different roles that you play, like in the ensemble, was a mix. It was originally a Chris cover, but I didn't cover Chris. I was a tumbler. So I did all his stuff, and then I came out and tumbled in Morning of the Dragon. So obviously I loved Morning of the Dragon because I was flipping and having a blast, and everyone's complaining about like the stage was raped 6 up. So the girls in the heels and the guys, and they'd done the show for so long, and they were like, oh, this hurts. And they were complaining, like, what are you all complaining about? We're on Broadway. Like I was just living my life and my dreams. But something memorable, like that track, then I had to wear a coolie hat and be like small and come in as like a girl in some of the scenes and like be in the back. I was just in the back for like the rest of the show, and then would come out and tumble. But I love that show. We just watched it the other night on Broadway. We've got a Broadway HD and watched the new version of it that I saw it when it was on Broadway, but I hadn't seen the Broadway HD.
It's pretty good.
Which I need to see. I haven't even seen the Kinky Boots that's on there. Have you seen it, Jerry?
What?
I don't know why. That's what I'm doing tonight.
I was hoping it was going to be your cast, Paul, but it's not your cast. But the cast is amazing. So
yeah,
the London cast.
The London cast. Mr. Taylor had some questions for you, Jerry, about kind of like the history, some history things.
Sure.
Some things that.
This is selfish, but I know some of my students are also aspiring directors. What's your process like? How do you develop a concept? As I'm trying to teach these students that there is a definite concept and there is a theme or a moral that we're trying to teach the audience. How do you get to your concept? Process?
Well, it's different for every idea or every story that you want to tell, right? Kinky Boots, I related to Kinky Boots on a personal level almost from every part in the show because I kind of grew up in a very small town where my parents owned a bar and restaurant, and it had been owned by my grandparents. And it was time for one of me or my two brothers to take over the business, and none of us wanted to take it over. So I understood that part of the story. I certainly understood the performance part of Lola and the drag queen and the person who wants to do something that their father won't support or wouldn't like them to do. I was fortunate. My parents approved of what I did. They didn't push me. They didn't help me get there, but they certainly didn't deny me the opportunity to do it if I wanted to do it. They never said, you can't dance, you can't sing. My dad was a bit of a show-off himself as a musician, so I think he got a lot of pleasure out of the fact that I was in the theater. So Kinky Boots I related to on a very personal level. I'm working on 2 new musicals. One is called Becoming Nancy. It's based on a book, and the other one is also based on a book called Drag Teen. I bought the rights to both of these books, and I found writers, and the writers are working on writing the shows for me. And Becoming Nancy, we've done a workshop, we've done a presentation in Atlanta, and it went very well. People really loved it, and we're rewriting for our next phase, just like you do with any musical. Those I'm still developing the concepts for those. One, Becoming Nancy, is about a high school boy who auditions for the school musical Oliver, and he gets cast as Nancy. And he starts to have feelings for the boy who gets cast as Bill Sykes. And it's about what happens to him in his life as he's figuring out who he is. His best friend happens to be an African-American girl, and it's 1979 when the race riots were happening in East Dulwich. So there's a lot of real situations and real stories in the musical that relate to what's happening right now today. But I'm trying to tell the whole thing. My concept is to tell it all on the stage where the kids rehearse for their musical. So that's kind of how I'm putting together the concept of how I tell the story. Kind of like Kinky Boots, everything was told inside the factory, and the factory morphed into the places I wanted to go to. The new show, Drag Teen, is about a boy in Clearwater, Florida who wants to go to college, but he hasn't got money to go. And so his boyfriend enters him in a teen drag pageant, but it's in New York. So they drive up to New York to get in this teen drag pageant. So I'm thinking of telling the whole show in that little drag studio where we can change it to anything we need it to be. So I love theater when it isn't literal, when it's suggestive, because that's the magic of theater. You can change this, you can build a house with a window, right? You don't need walls and a door. You can tell the audience what you want them to, where you want them to be, and they will go with you as long as you set the rules in the beginning of telling your story. You know, in Hairspray, we didn't use walls. We brought out a little pod, and Edna was ironing on the pod, and the kids are dancing around the pod who are on TV. So they were on the stage level, and Edna and Tracy and Penny watching TV were up on a little level, but there were no walls, there were no doors. We just told the story and put them in different space. And, you know, that's in Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now. Tracy's bedroom would come down and she'd be standing there with her mom in the bedroom, but then the girls would just swing a mirror around on the side of the proscenium and they would be in their room, and then all 3 girls used all the mirrors, and it just turned into every girl's lament to her mother, Mama, I'm a big girl now. So the concept was the story, the idea was bigger than just one bedroom. So those are some of the things you start to think about as you spend a lot of time with a musical. If you're going to be a director or choreographer, if you want to have a good concept, realize that you're going to spend the next 3 years of your life with that idea.
Good advice.
Thank you. Yeah.
Unless you're teaching at a school and you have 4 months for the show and then it's over.
Move on to the next one. Yep.
Yeah. That's what I think though, like as I've gone into the world to see shows and productions that have like used original production and gotten feedback, and I've been to like thespian festivals, like a lot of stuff that I never had time to do when I was in the 8 show a week grind. I'm learning, and my favorite part of this whole business is what Jerry's saying, being in the studio, seeing stuff created and concepts come together, and then seeing it up on the stage. I'm not in Becoming Nancy, but I saw like 3 workshops in New York of it with fake props and fake things, and then I went down to Atlanta and saw it on its feet, and it's so thrilling to see visions come to life and then play out ideas that don't work and take it back to the drawing board and try to fix it and change it. It's such a beautiful part of the process. Because once you're doing 8 shows a week, it's 8 shows a week. It's like a blue collar factory worker job. Sometimes it can do the same thing over and over and over. But as artists, we want to keep creating. And my point is that I think a Broadway budget is one thing. I think people that are creating theater all over the place are some of the most inventive, because you don't have the budget all the time. You don't have the cast all the time, the space. So you have to get very creative and inventive with what you're doing. So kudos to your teachers, everybody. Kudos. Come on.
Hey, Mr. Taylor. Snaps from Mr. Taylor. I'm the mean one. I'm the one that's like, nope, do it again. Nope, do it again. Do it again.
Yep.
Go full out. Do it again. Mr. Taylor's like, okay, it's gonna be good. I'm like, nope, they have to do it full out.
Do you guys
Kelly, do you have a question? Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I was gonna say, do you guys participate in like the Jimmy Award theater program in Washington?
Yes,
we do. It's actually the Fifth Avenue Awards at the Fifth.
Yeah.
And we're in talks with them because of everyone's production being postponed. We found out, sadly, they're canceling the Jimmys this year.
Yeah.
Which is heartbreaking for some of these cast members. But they're still hoping to do the Fifth Avenue Awards. So we're hoping to at least
that's good.
show up and be part of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a judge for a few years for the Jimmys.
You were a judge, Paul?
Yeah.
Wow. So I've never been to. Can you explain a lot of the? Can you explain the Jimmy Awards to?
It's this amazing thing that I wish I had when I was your age. That I'm so freaking jealous when I sit in that audience that these high school kids get to perform on Broadway. I get so jealous every time. But it's basically a male and a female from every state kind of not compete, but they're voted for by their local kind of participating theater. They come to New York for a week, have these wonderful professional mentors and teaching. They learn these medleys, and they kind of go head to head for who's going to win the Jimmy Award. And the winner gets a full ride scholarship to NYU. They get a ton of scholarship money. And 2 of my Take It From the Top kids from Orlando, the first time a boy and a girl from the same market won the Jimmy Awards the year that I was there as a judge. It helped that I was a judge. But they won. It was a big deal. Yeah. But it's raising the level of, like, there were no Tony Award. Like, I didn't get an award for doing theater in high school. All the football players got trophies and stuff. I never got anything. So it's a nice kind of like award program to be rewarded for your hard work in theater, which I think is great.
Awesome. Yeah, I wish we had something like that in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. When I was in high school, we were a 5A school. We had most of the money and budget went into the band. We had the Pride of Broken Arrow, but our drama department, we were winning national awards, and they wouldn't give us any money, so we were always fundraising. But
it's what you do. It's what you got to do.
I keep cutting Kelly off. I think she had another question, and Declan had another question as well. But
hey guys, do you have this is more so of a question for Jerry, but Paul, you can chime in if you want to too. Do you have any advice for us putting on this production right now for how to tell the message, what we should be portraying, or just general advice?
Of Hairspray?
Yeah.
So I think what you should realize is that Hairspray is you have to treat it as if it's the truth, right? Even though it's a comedy and even though it's funny, you have to find truth in these people, because these people really existed. There really was a Buddy Dean dance show. I actually learned the Madison from a couple that danced on the Buddy Dean dance show. They came to New York and taught me when I was starting the process. So John Waters, when I very first started working on the show, John Waters insisted that I come to Baltimore, and he drove me around in his car and showed me all of the places that were mentioned in the story that he used in the original film. So it's a real town. They're real places. There's a real Druid Hill. There's a real Essex Community College. These are real places, right? And the characters are real. They really did that. They really lived that life. And it's just what makes it so funny and so comical is John's John's take on it as an artist and the way he saw his town. And that is translated by Mark and Scott in a song like Good Morning Baltimore. Tracy absolutely believes, I know every step, I know every song, I know there's a place where I belong. She is the ultimate optimist, right? And so you have to play that truth. Are you playing, Tracy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta play that truth. You gotta play that truth that you believe that you should be dancing on that show, and that you believe that Black kids and white kids should be able to dance together. And there isn't a problem with that, because that innocence of just believing it and going for it is what makes it so special and so beautiful, because you haven't been, you know, the outside world hasn't corrupted you yet, like it has corrupted Velma von Tussle, right? so those are really important qualities. And I think if you can go, you guys all have computers, obviously, you can go on YouTube and you can Google Shindig, Hullabaloo, the Dick Clark Show, 1960s, 1961, 62, and watch the kids and watch how they dressed and watch how they, you know, the boys always had ties on and the girls were always like in skirts and shirts. There were no, you know, culottes or pants. They didn't exist. It was just a different world, a different time. John Waters always said that the young people in 1962 were extremely innocent before President Kennedy was assassinated. Our country was innocent. So there was an innocence. And what I always say is the white kids, the nicest kids in town, they dance from the hips up, and the Motormouth gang, they dance from the hips down. You know, let's face it, we all want to be like the Motormouth gang.
Period.
True. So, yeah.
That's good. Good.
That was really good advice.
Yeah, thank you.
Is Micah on the call? I really wish you guys could. I wish she was on, because that would have been that's. She'll rewatch the video.
When you guys do Legally Blonde next, you can have us on then too.
Hint, hint, Chad, hint, hint.
We'll come back for that chat.
We've talked about that. We've also, after seeing your post about Kinky Boots, I was like, oh, that would be a fun show at a high school level to do. So
Yeah.
we'll see what next year brings for sure. Yeah.
The girl who's playing Velma von Tussle is, I think she's hilarious. Jerry, do you have any advice, or Paul, do you guys have any advice for Miss Baltimore Crabs? Because I think that she has a really interesting role in this show, and I think it's somewhat a challenge to be nice nasty for Miss Tess, because she's such a nice girl. Do you have any advice for her how to play this a little bit better?
Play it like you were a beauty queen, and there was no one. You still believe you're the prettiest beauty queen that ever lived. You know, Kristen Chenoweth did quite a fantastic job of nailing it on the Hairspray Live that I did. Kristen Chenoweth was a great Velma von Tussle. She basically is that woman who still wants to be in Amber's shoes. She's the mother who didn't grow up, who still wants to be the beauty queen, who still wants to be in the competition, who still wants to be considered just as pretty as all the other girls. And she probably considers herself more pretty than any of the girls on the show. So she's a bossy babe.
Yeah.
She's a bossy babe.
Can you could play that really well, couldn't you, Tess? It's like,
well.
Oh yeah, I could do it. Kristen Chenoweth, she's from my hometown too, by the way. Like her drama teacher retired the year that I started doing drama in Broken Arrow. I was like,
she's a dear friend and an amazing performer, amazing star.
She's doing a lot of Skyping, like reaching out to people and singing and performing and stuff.
That would be awesome if we could have her join us. I think Declan had one more question.
It's two kind of smaller ones. So I guess the first is, so Paul, you were talking about like how like it feels like some turn, like there's an overkick. Is it generally a good idea to keep a consistent image of what you want with your character the whole way through, or is it good to kind of like throughout the whole thing try reinventing a few things about that character as it goes on?
I mean, once a show's frozen, you should consistently deliver the performance that was approved by directors and choreographers.
That was rehearsed.
That was rehearsed. That's the goal. But within that, you can always be more truthful, and you can vibe an audience and listen to them laugh. And that, I mean, that is, I say it's like grunt work being in a show 8 times a week. But the cool thing about it is that, especially with a show like Kinky Boots, Wednesday matinee, you don't feel well, they bus load a bunch of people, like older people in, and they're sitting there fist bumping the air by the end of the show, screaming and clapping and standing up. And you're like, oh, they're doing this because of what we just did on this stage. What a beautiful job we have to change their minds and entertain them. So as hard as it gets, that moment is always, the applause is always so wonderful. But that's where your skills of being a performer actually come in, is staying consistent and staying strong and not switching it up, because understudies will come on and you have to help them rise to the level that was originally set, because the audience hasn't seen the show. Most of them are seeing it for the first time. So you have to give them an opening night performance every single night and just crank that out.
I got it. Thank you. And then I guess the final one is, so I'm playing Wilbur and I'm not quite sure sometimes what kind of energy I should bring to it. I'm like to certain scenes where he's talking, and I guess this is kind of a question for Jerry.
Wait, who's playing Edna again?
Martine.
Martine. Okay. So this is for you and for Martine. Your job is to make the audience believe that Tracy is your daughter.
Okay.
And your job is to make the audience genuinely believe that you love each other and you are a perfect family. And that really, you shouldn't think of Martine as a guy in a dress. You should think of him as a woman, and he should think of you as his husband. And you both should think of her as your daughter, because that will play on stage. If you believe it, we will believe it. It isn't a joke. It isn't about a guy in drag. It's actually about a perfect family. And you know why they're perfect? Because they love each other. And they love their little fat girl. And they support her and what she thinks. And that is what every family should do. And that's why Hairspray is so magical. Because you have this very odd trio, and the audience sees that there's so much love shared by these three people. Jack O'Brien, the original director, used to be very, very specific with Harvey Fierstein. In the scene at the end of the first act, when they're all in the record shop, they've all gone to Motormouth's together, and Link comes in, and Amber comes in, and everybody comes in, and Tracy gets her heart broken because Link can't confess his love in front of everybody yet. He's not there, and he leaves, and she says, "My heart's been broken." And Edna goes over and consoles her daughter, and she says, "I know something about being in love." And she looks at Wilbur, and Jack used to love that because the audience didn't laugh at that. They used to actually feel something. And you know, that's all of you have to look for the humanity in the people you're playing. That's what I was saying about the truth. It's a musical comedy, but comedy comes from truth. And when you just try to be funny, that's not going to work. You have to find the truth. Wilbur's an inventor. Wilbur is, you know, go look at all of those Rube Goldberg cartoons. Wilbur's that guy. Wilbur's that guy who invents crazy things. Go look at the old Betty Boop cartoons. Wilbur's Grampy in the Betty Boop cartoons, inventing crazy stuff just to crack an egg. But you know, his mind doesn't think the same way everyone else's does. And they're an odd and loving and wonderful family. And if you can, the three of you can make that happen, make the audience believe you are the perfect family, you really have a foundation to base the story on.
Martine,
Thank you so much.
Where have you heard that before, Martine? What he just said.
A lot.
Exactly. You heard the expression, it's funny because it's true. That is that is golden advice, Jerry.
Thank you.
It's always that way.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming and being willing to join us today, because I think the stories, the advice, just hearing it firsthand from you guys is really valuable for them.
You guys, the thing about Hairspray that you have to remember, Hairspray, when I was choreographing Hairspray, the reason it was so joyful is because it's powered by an amazingly joyful score. There isn't a song in the show that isn't great. And enjoy that and love that and enjoy performing it. When you get to You Can't Stop the Beat and Motormouth comes out and she sings, "You can't stop today, no," as it comes speeding down the track. Ooh, child, yesterday was history. Be gone, and it's never coming back. If you aren't higher than a kite when you sing those words in the show, then you haven't done your job. You should be flying by the time you sing those words, because they're the best words we could be singing right now as people, as a community, as artists. The world needs to hear that. They need to hear that. So make sure they hear it, and hear it with determination and pride and joy and love. Give it out there. When you send that tsunami out of love, that tsunami is going to come right back to you.
Amen. I think you could have been a minister, Jerry.
Right?
Sort of am. Theater's not far from the church.
That's true. So true. Mr. Taylor, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
We're just eternally grateful to learn and to rub shoulders virtually with both of you. I've heard of Paul and knew of him growing up in Utah as well, from another kid going to school in Orem, Utah, that made it. And I, as a director, idolize Jerry Mitchell. It's moving to be inspired by you and to have you guys take the time to inspire the future. These kids are awesome, and I'm blessed to teach them. So thank you so much.
Listen, everybody stay safe, stay well, stay healthy, because you need to do Hairspray, because you need, boy, when people come back, they're gonna want theater. They're gonna want to be touched. They're gonna want to be connected with. They're gonna want live interaction, and we're the ones who are gonna be able to deliver it. So go for it. Have fun, you guys. It was lovely to be here. Thanks for including us.
Yeah,
it's going to be amazing. We had one question before we go from Lavelle. Let me find Lavelle so I can unmute her. Lavelle, where'd you go? She's like, "Can I please ask a question?" I was like, "Okay, there you go."
I see her.
There you go, Lavelle. Lavelle, are you there?
I can't hear her.
Am I audible now?
There you are.
There we go. Okay. So I can't really find the words to ask my question at the moment. Like, I'm trying to form it, but I think as for now, like, is there any way we could, like, I guess, contact you for, like, if we have, like, other questions now?
You can send your emails to me, and I'll forward them off to Paul. He can send them off to Jerry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Perfect.
And maybe we'll, when all is said and done, we'll set up a little workshop at your school.
That would be amazing.
Because I've had another Seattle theater ask me about coming out there, and I have Portland people. So if I could get a whole Northwest situation going with Take It From the Top, absolutely,
right.
Do it.
And then Mr. Angelo Herrera, who dressed up, he actually woke up and dressed up. I'm very, very impressed. Angelo, ask your question before we go.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I was about to type down the question earlier, but I woke up too late.
You were getting ready.
The question is, what's for both of you, what would you tell your high school self to, like, to prepare for, like, the position where you guys both have now? Like, is there anything that you would tell your younger self then to look out for and everything? Yeah.
I would tell my younger self, don't worry about what other people think of you.
Yeah. I would too. And I would also,
yeah.
That's funny. Isn't that like the last thing they do on Drag Race? They show them a picture of their younger self.
Yeah, they do.
I would say the same thing. And I would also say, don't be afraid to, because I've been a performer my whole life. And now I'm creating things and I'm producing things and I'm thinking in other boxes. So I would also say, don't be afraid to keep creating and put in front of other people what you're doing and what you want to do, and start a company if you want, start a web series if you want. Laura Bell Bundy is like the best example of somebody who just does all the anything that comes to her mind, she fearlessly pursues and just.
But Paul said, don't be afraid of, and I said, don't be afraid of what other people think. And I think to narrow it down is just don't fear.
Yeah.
Don't fear anything. Fear has such a wasted time and wasted energy to have fear in your life. Do not fear things. Fear is a waste of time. Don't fear anything. Go for it. Full out. And when I say full out, I mean full out, people. Move forward, full out in every direction, full out.
Exactly. Don't mark it. Go full out.
Every direction.
Go for it. Go for it.
Thank you guys so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Paul, it's so good to see you. Like, you still look the same as you did when we were at BYU.
Fire energy and regret and quarantine. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, we really appreciate it. We're so grateful. And, I think that these young performers are going to take the things that you guys have shared from your own experiences and really internalize them and then put them out on the stage and leave it all out there. So
work hard and enjoy it, you guys. Really enjoy it.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Send me like pictures and stuff as you guys progress, and I'll get them to Jerry, and we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have
Good
a
luck.
great day.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kelly,
Hi, Jonathan.
do you guys want to talk about that?
That was so much fun.
That was so much fun.